Hello, everybody. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff live on this Tuesday, getting ready for the Super Bowl. What number is this? Super Bowl?
60.
60? There we go. Right here on Giants.com, the Giants mobile app. Big Blue Kickoff Live is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. We're in the Hackensack Meridian Health podcast studio, broadcast booth. Keep getting better. Paul Dottino, John Schmeelk. It is good to be back in the tri-state area, Paul Dottino, after 8 long days away. And we can take a little break here from talking about draft prospects. We'll be back with you in 3 weeks when we're at the Combine in Indianapolis doing it out there.
Indeed.
But back talking some Giants football. Paulie Dots, how are you?
Good to see you again, John. And in one piece, after that horrible trip on the way out, coming back, you said it was a lot easier.
Yeah, well, going out was fine, too. It was getting from Dallas to Mobile that was the problem.
Yes, that was the first leg, or second leg of the trip, actually, wasn't it? Second leg of your trip.
Yes.
Yes. But, hey, the bottom line is this. You missed the blizzard. You came back to see that we've turned into Greenland. But it is what it is.
We had our own little weather in Dallas, so I feel like while I missed the blizzard here, I was still part of a weather event. So I feel like I didn't miss a ton.
Good for you.
Yes, mission accomplished, success. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, because this stuff, within a half a day, by the time you got to Monday afternoon, this stuff was ice, and you couldn't shovel it anymore. It was vicious. Anyway.
So, yeah, I know. I ended up trying to widen one of the paths when I got back on Sunday, and you have to have the ice chipper out first to break through the layer of ice, and then you have to shovel it. It was not fun.
Yes.
All right. So I spent the whole morning. I came in today, and Paul and I talked yesterday. We were going to do this huge diagnostic on Denard Wilson, and obviously the reports are that he is going to be the Giants' next defensive coordinator. Still, no announcements has been made. So I did the stat breakdown. I did film work. I have all sorts of metrics here. I mean, Paul can see all these notes I have in my paper here. It's a ton of stuff. Then we got the news reports this morning about the Giants potentially hiring an offensive coordinator. Again, not confirmed here. It sounds like the Giants are going to wait for everybody, the whole staff, to be hired before any announcements are made. That Matt Nagy could very well be their next offensive coordinator. Yeah. So, Paul and I called a bit of an audible. We're not going to do a crazy long monologue today because we want to make sure to give you guys a chance to call and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Because it's not official yet. And we will get to Denard Wilson and then his stuff later in the week. I'm with Lance on Thursday. That'll probably be a big focus of the show. You are on, I believe, with SciTech again tomorrow. You guys can do whatever you want to do tomorrow. That's fine. I'll just give a really brief overview on Wilson. Then we'll give our brief overview on Nagy. And then we'll get to your calls nice and early here at 201-939-4513. So, Paul, very quickly, I'll go Wilson first. And then I'll get to Nagy. Guys, this will be quick. So Wilson's interesting. He only has 2 years as the Titans defensive coordinator, really judge what he wants to do. I think his background is interesting. He was under a very blitz-heavy Greg Williams, a very blitz-heavy Todd Bowles. Then he was under Gannon with the Eagles before going under Mike McDonald. So some very different defensive coordinators that do some very different things. Yeah. And I think I saw that with what he did as a member of the Titans staff as their defensive coordinator. And I think the funny part of it, I'm not going to look at his rankings in terms of numbers because you look at the personnel he had in Tennessee and it's not good. So I don't think the results are really what the important thing you want to look at here. You want to look at how he approached things. And there actually was a bit of a change, Paul, from what he did in 2024 to what he did in 2025 in terms of how he did his coverage lineup. He went from being the 12th most frequent you use cover one in 2024 to being 22nd. It dropped almost 8% from year to year from cover one to cover one in 2024 to 2025. But there were a couple things that were consistent. Again, I'm trying to keep this a 20,000-foot view thing so we can get to your calls. Yeah. Use quarters as much or more than any defensive coordinator in the sport. Use quarters more than anyone else in 2024, second most in 2025. Use cover 6 in a top 10 rate in 2024, top 15 rate in 2025. Blitz rate, 16th in 2024, 25th in 2025. Pressure rate was around the middle of the league, 19th in 2025, 29th in 2024. When you look at what he does on third downs, again, a lot of quarter stuff on third downs, a lot of zone. Did not play a lot of man on third downs. Played base defense against the run a little bit more in 2025 than he did in 2024. Used more nickel in 2024 on 1st and 10. So again, from what I saw watching it, there's a lot of have guys at the line of scrimmage, pull somebody back, fake simulated blitz
Very
stuff.
big with that stuff.
A lot of that.
Loves to fake blitzes.
He actually did a lot of cornerback blitzing, and I got the numbers for this. For corner blitzes, where is it? Where's the pressure numbers that I pulled? Like I said, I got a lot of stuff here. In terms of pressure, in his 2 years, and this is composite to 2 years, he was 6th most slot corner blitzes, 11th most in overall cornerback blitzes from the outside. So we will bring guys from the outside. The majority of his blitzes are 5-man pressures. He was 12th in 5-man pressures, but 28th and 26th in 6 and 7-man pressures. And that's kind of what I saw. He likes to start with 2 safeties deep as a shell, and then he'll go into different things. Using quarters, you can play quarters in a lot of different ways. A lot of times his quarters look like man-to-man. Sometimes his quarters look like more of the 2 safeties deep stuff. Sometimes his quarters would drop one of those safeties into the intermediate, and one of those safeties would stay deep. So a lot of disguises on the back half, a lot of those simulated pressure stuff up front. Didn't blitz a ton, which I was surprised by given his Greg Williams and Todd Bowles history. I thought we'd maybe see a little bit more of that. Didn't see as much as that, I would think.
Personnel, you said that earlier. Keep that in mind.
Correct. And that could be a personnel thing. So that's my 20,000-foot overview of what I saw at Denard Wilson. And I'll be curious to see what he does with his personnel here, because I'm not sure what he's going to do with his personnel here. I think it'll be interesting to see.
Some of the stuff that I looked at from the Titans, John, stunts. He's not afraid to stunt. I don't know what the numbers say, but I just happen to see.
15th in 2024, 12th in 2025.
Yeah, he's not afraid to do it.
So top half of the league. Yep, I agree with that.
And that would be, something that, quite frankly, I thought the Giants did a little more of after Charlie Bullen took over.
I agree with that. Yep, I agree with that.
So that made me feel pretty good. I do think his background under the guys that you mentioned earlier, we all know how those guys play like. They want to have defense with their butts on fire. That's the kind of defense those guys play.
Yep.
Now, I'm willing to believe this. The way I said it last week when we talked about him when you were out of town, is that he's more of a strategic blitzer. He's not a guy who's going to just break the dam and flood you. Like you just said, 6-man blitzes, you're not going to see a lot of.
Correct.
That's not what he does. He's more about trying to make you guess as to which 4 or 5 guys are coming and which angle are they coming from.
And he blitzes a lot more on 3rd down. He does not blitz on 1st and 2nd down. He was 24th in terms of blitz rate on 1st and 2nd down.
Now, again, I think his propensity would probably to do it more, because if you read quotes from him, and I went back and I looked at some of his interviews.
All right, I did not look at that. Talk to me.
He talks about it's all about being aggressive and violent. He's very much from the Bowles, Greg Williams mentality about we want to dictate to the other team, which, of course, is something that I've always professed. I love my DCs, the most successful ones that I've always fell in love with were guys who dictated. He was all about that in his interviews. But when you watch some of the tape of the Titans, and your numbers indicate this, he wasn't as much of that as I think he wanted to be.
Right, but that might, again, to your point, do you have the bodies at corner to do that?
Yeah,
so we'll have to wait and see.
I think he wants to play, from what I could tell, especially his first year with Tennessee, he wants to play more press man, but then he couldn't do it.
He played more man in 2024, and then in 2025 he got away from it.
Yeah, I think he realized he couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think you could be right about that. All right, let's jump to Matt Nagy very quickly, because this, I'm sure, most people are going to want to talk about here.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to. I haven't done my full deep dive yet, so I'm keeping this very broad. I think clearly the connection between Andy Reid and John Harbaugh probably helped putting this together. Huge. I would imagine. Now, the way Matt Nagy ran his offense in Chicago, and the way Andy Reid ran his offense in Kansas City, is very unlike anything we saw from John Harbaugh's offenses in Baltimore.
Totally different.
So I don't know if John Harbaugh is going to tell Matt Nagy, look, I want you to do things this way, and Matt Nagy is going to form his offense around what John Harbaugh wants, or if John Harbaugh is going to adjust to what Matt Nagy did in Kansas City and in Chicago.
Yeah, and again, this is if reportedly he is the guy.
If he ends up being the offensive
We're hypothetical
coordinator.
here,
Yes,
folks.
and I did say that at the top of the show, but thank you for reminding me. No, I appreciate that. Again, if Matt Nagy ends up being the guy, when he was in Chicago, Paul, I looked at this. He was, and I did a composite of all 4 years together.
Okay.
He was 5th in the NFL in shotgun rate, 12 and 11 personnel was right in the middle of the league, 16th and 17th. So he did have a mix of two tight ends and single tight ends. Not a ton of play action, not a ton of shifts in motion, a lot of inside zone and outside zone in the run game, not a lot of gap scheme or power stuff. But you also have to remember, this was 5 years ago now. The NFL has changed a lot.
It has.
Now, the Chiefs, though, still run a lot of shotgun. They still do a lot of RPO stuff.
They do.
So does that come over? Does Harbaugh move away from that? I think we have to wait and see what this looks like, Paul, based on what Harbaugh wants and what Nagy does. And you take a look at his history. He was 34-31 as head coach of the Bears with a bad quarterback situation.
Indeed.
He helped Alex Smith when he got to Kansas City, and he kind of turned his career around.
Yeah.
He helped develop Patrick Mahomes at Kansas City. We know how Andy Reid is good with quarterbacks. And Mike Kafka comes from that school. That's where Mike Kafka came from, and he was with Jackson Dart last year. So maybe there's going to be some continuity then with that school coming together, though it was more of a Dable offense than a Kafka offense when it was here. So these are all things that I don't think we know what this is going to look like. And I'm curious to see how the Andy Reid, Nagy, Chief style blends with what John Harbaugh has had as an offense in Baltimore. I just don't know what the answer to that question is.
He does do a lot of pre-snap motion when he's in charge of the offense.
He didn't in Chicago.
No, not there, but in his other places he did. Now, the question becomes, is that him or was that the influence of the head coach?
Now, in the past in Kansas City, yes, the last couple years in Kansas City, there hasn't been as much shift.
Not as much. There's been less. Because, again, their wide receiver personnel was not as good.
Right.
We also know Mahomes was playing hurt the last couple of years.
Really?
He's been banged up.
Yeah,
he's been banged up.
I'm not making the excuse for him. But
look, I don't know. You know what part of the problem is, John? And I find this is happening more and more because we have about a dozen head coaches in the league who call plays. Does that sound about right to you?
I haven't counted.
It's about that many, I believe.
I bet you it's close to half the league right now.
Okay. What we have then are issues where we truly don't know how much influence the offensive coordinator, he's got the title, but how much influence is being given in terms of his ability to impact the offense, or how much is the head coach? I'll give you a great example, okay? And this is absolutely not to be considered a knock on any individual person. This is why I'm going to use Mr. X and Mr. Y. Mr. X is an offensive coordinator by name, but Mr. Y is the head coach, and he calls the plays. So in reality, we can talk all we want about scheme. How much does that really matter when, if the head coach, he's got the play sheet, he's doing what he wants to do?
For example, Zach Taylor was the head coach of the Bengals.
All right, so you want to throw names out? We'll throw names out. Okay,
I'll throw names. No,
okay.
This has nothing to do with the Giants. We can throw names.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So Zach Taylor was the head coach of the Bengals. Brian Callahan was offensive coordinator.
Right.
Did not call plays.
Correct.
He got hired by the Titans. His offense in Tennessee looked a lot different than what Zach Taylor did in Cincinnati.
Totally different.
So
that's what I'm trying to say.
But we do have evidence of what Nagy was when he did have full control in Chicago.
What he did have full control in Chicago, then gave it up for a while, and then took it back.
Twice. He actually gave it up in 2020 in November, and then he gave it up again in 2021. Bill Lazor, I believe, took over.
Yes,
from both those
Lazor
years.
was the guy.
Correct, yes.
I have absolutely no idea. I got to call somebody in Chicago to find out exactly what went on there. But
that's because the offense was terrible and he only gave up.
Obviously, things didn't go right. But what were the reasons for it? And was he too? One thing that I've heard is that he was too overwhelmed with doing both jobs.
Well,
that's one thing that I have
part
heard.
Of it too. Right. Well, yeah.
And
correct.
Quite frankly, you know where I come from. I like that job to be split. So yeah, I don't blame him.
But again, that's not a situation that we're running into here.
No,
not the head coach.
No, we're not.
Right.
So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, as much as we would like to do a scouting report on him, there's still going to be a lot of gray area here where we truly don't know as much as we want to know about what the guy's DNA is. That's really my point. We can discuss some things, but I don't know how much certainty we can have on some of these things.
No, and again, we don't know what influence Harbaugh is going to have on what the offense looks like.
And again, quite frankly, when he was in control, here's what we do know. When he was in control, and we just talked about this right before we turned on the microphones, he was in control in Chicago. Look at the quarterbacks he had. Trubisky, Fields, you threw in Foles for a short time. Those guys are nothing like Jackson Dart.
No.
They're not.
No. And he went 34-31 in his stint with the Bears as head coach.
Right. Now, that's when
12-4 his first year, which kind of,
That's when he had the most control of the offense.
Yes.
But we would all agree that, that Bears offense did not have exactly the most spectacular personnel leading with the quarterback.
Right. They were ranked in the 20s for most of the time in terms of yards per game. I haven't gone through all the advanced metrics, but that's the area they were in. And terrible is a little overall. I shouldn't use that word. But, just...
lackluster.
Yes. Correct. It did not, and you would not give up play calling if you were happy with the production,
right.
Obviously.
That's fair.
Correct.
But at the same time, he has worked with Andy Reid for more than a decade in terms of his combined association with Reid. Harbaugh had a decade.
And it should be important to note, too, he was not fired by Andy Reid. It was a deal where he was going to try to...
get a head coaching job.
Well, or a play-calling opportunity, which
right.
he was not going to have in Kansas City.
And so Eric Bieniemy went back to Kansas City.
Correct. And now we got to see who he brings in as a quarterback's coach and who gets brought in as an offensive line coach.
Right.
Those are two things that we have not seen any reports on yet.
But to your point about Harbaugh and Reid connecting, Harbaugh was with Andy for about 10 years, maybe even a little bit more.
In Philly.
Yep. And we know that Nagy has been with Andy Reid between his stints in Kansas City.
He was also with him in Philly.
And Philadelphia, too, for a short
Mm-hmm.
time. So it's over a decade that both of these guys have a connection to Andy Reid.
Yeah,
he's the conduit.
And Andy and Nagy, I've read a couple stories today. I found a couple articles. Dan Pompei had a great story at the end of December for The Athletic, talking about their relationship. Like, they are super, super tight.
Right.
Super tight.
So,
and Mahomes loves him to death. Mahomes loves him.
And there's one thing we know about this league. It's that when guys are with somebody for a long period of time, they do get to know their DNA, and there are no secrets. We know that. There are no secrets in this league. These coaches, it's a circle, it's a fraternity. They know everything about each other. They do all the research on each other. And if you have a connection like Andy Reid between both of these guys, I'm only going to have to say this. I'm sure Andy Reid and John Harbaugh had some very long conversations.
I'm sure they did. All right, 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Guys, that was the first time I had a chance to talk about the two coordinator spots, so I'm sorry I went a little bit long, but I was excited to do it.
It's pertinent.
I agree. Special Olympics New Jersey's annual Snow Bowl is heading to Rutgers SHI Stadium in 2026. This annual flag football tournament will be on the field from March 6th through March 8th, 2026. The 6-on-6 tournament will feature competitive recreational and co-ed divisions, and all proceeds benefit thousands of Special Olympics New Jersey athletes across the Garden State. Register your team today at njsnowbowl.org. That's njsnowbowl.org. All right, 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Ken in Paramus, I'm guessing, or Keen. It is Keen. Keen in Paramus. Keen, what's going on?
Cool.
Hey, John. My name's Keen, and thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, Keen. What do you got?
I just actually want to support this hire of Matt Nagy. I know it's getting a lot of hate online, and some of it I think is due because of the Bears stint while he was a head coach. And a lot of fans are always going to think of your worst. Like, people may have given up on Daboll, but now he's considered like a top offensive coordinator hire. So I think this is in the same vein where Nagy does have like a lot of relevant background with Andy Reid. And I think Harbaugh also has his own CEO style because he hired a lot of the offensive coaches before. Like we had the assistant O-line coach yesterday and stuff like that. So I really think this is a Harbaugh decision style because he said in that Howard Eskin interview he doesn't want a one-system guy. He wants someone who could run RPOs or be back in the gun and play action. So I think this just fits in line with Harbaugh's overall vision for Jackson Dart. And I think fans may hate on Nagy, but I'm just going to be that guy to be like, I think we should just trust in Harbaugh. But thanks for taking my call, you guys.
I appreciate it, Keen. I think you make a good point. And again, we'll have to wait and see how this looks and what everything looks like when all is said and done. I think that's a good point. Again, if the reports end up being accurate, the Giants do end up with Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator. Harbaugh has had a pretty good history of filling out his staff well and finding good members of his staff even when he's lost people. Now, has it worked out perfectly all the time? No. He had to move on from Greg Roman at one point, and he ended up bringing in Todd Monken. But he did have success with Greg Roman there as one of the top offenses in the league.
For a while, yeah.
For quite a while. And obviously on the defensive side of the ball, he did a great job of cycling through some of those defensive coordinators. So that's where I err. I think you have to trust Harbaugh's process here and his judgment when it comes to bringing in coordinators, assistant coaches, because he's done a good job before. And I think we have to wait and see what it looks like. Because I do think that Harbaugh has a very firm idea on what he's looking for on both sides of the ball, and I'm sure he is going to help create an outline. It's kind of like having a sheet of paper, right? And you give it to your kid. You don't tell them to draw a picture. You'll draw the outline, and then you tell them to fill it in with color. So instead of like drawing a picture, they're coloring in a picture that you made. And I think that's what this is probably going to look like, right?
Color by number.
Harbaugh gives him the color. He gives him the design. He gives him the outline. And then Nagy's going to fill it in with color based on what Harbaugh wants.
You know, I think the one thing that we should remember about John Harbaugh is that not only does he have an extensive Rolodex, but so does his brother. And I'm sure that he probably talked to Jim a little bit too.
I'm sure he did.
About some of the guys who are available. So we're talking about a football family that from the time they were born, I mean, these Harbaugh guys, they live and breathe pigskin. So his Rolodex is probably about as extensive as anybody's in the league, John. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably true.
So think about, anyone who would have, quote, been available. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had his choice. And even though Todd Monken, who was reportedly going to be his first choice, okay, so the guy took a head coaching job. You can't blame him for doing that. But that doesn't mean that, there weren't a bunch of other people who were still on Harbaugh's top shelf. Because, again, his Rolodex is huge. And furthermore,
the problem you ran into, though, is that a lot of guys had taken jobs before you got to this point.
Some
right?
had. But again, if he's looking at a huge salad bar of guys, even if some of those guys are gone, there's still going to be some good candidates, And I will say this one other thing too. We didn't even mention this. Matt Nagy has been a part of some Super Bowl championship teams. He has been on winning situations. So, that does matter too. I've often said whenever the Giants or any team is looking for a head coach, I do think being part of winning situations does carry a little extra clout, at least for me.
All right, let's go to David in Florida. He's up next. Hey, David.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What's going on?
Just a couple of mixed points and questions about the draft and about the running back and injuries. So
sure, let's go one by one, David.
If number one, how Malik and Cam are coming along. Number two, how Tyrone really may have improved. Tyrone Tracy, I'm saying, over from first year to second year, and truly improved, or just if he's kind of stable. Same as first year. And if number three, if there's any possibility of this kid from Notre Dame coming our way at number 5. I'll take it off the air.
All right, thank you, David. All right, let's go one by one. In terms of recovery for Scadaboo and Neighbors, we have no indication on where they are right now. Based on what was said at the end of the year, Scadaboo, I think, is ahead of where Neighbors is. And you could expect him back doing stuff in the spring. I don't know if he's going to be on the field like doing practices or whatever, but he'll be doing stuff. And then you hope Neighbors, based on what Joe Shane has said, sometime training camp. We hope he's back and ready to go then. But we'll have to wait and see on both guys. We don't know. The Neighbors injury was obviously more serious than Scadaboo. Whenever you tear ligaments, that's always going to be worse than a fracture. That's just the nature of the beast in terms of, coming back from those sorts of injuries. All right, now I already forgot. What were his other two questions?
He was also asking about Love, the Notre Dame running back.
Oh, yeah, and Tyrone Tracy. So, yeah, I think, Tracy, I thought, got off to a slow start this year, and then he hurt his shoulder, and I think that set him back a little bit, and it took him a little while, Paul, to get some confidence back in that shoulder.
I agree.
But, he looked like a similar running back. I think he sets up his blocks well. He's elusive. I do think there's an opportunity to use him in the passing game a little bit more. That's something that the Giants offense can lead into a little bit this year. But, yeah, I think he's a good, solid running back that you feel good about getting 15 to 18 touches a game. And then, look, I would not pick a running back at 5th overall. You have Scadaboo coming back. You used a 4th-round pick on him last year. You have Tyrone Tracy, you used a 5th-round pick on 2 years ago, and he looks like a really good player. So, no, I would not use I think Jeremiah Love's awesome. I think he is one of the 10 best players in this draft in terms of grade, just the grade on a player. He might be a top 3 or 5 player in this draft.
Terrific player.
But I would not use the 5th overall pick on a running back.
I'll just throw in something on Tracy because in my opinion, and I talked to him a lot, he was much more assertive during the final month and a half of the season after he came back from the injury and then Scadaboo had gone down and the Giants were leaning on him a little bit more. To me, he was more patient in terms of his vision and his eyes in terms of finding the hole. And then when he did run through that hole, he was much more assertive. And I thought he showed a little bit more power in terms of breaking tackles and carrying guys a little bit and getting that extra yard. And I would talk to him about this, and he told me that he definitely felt like he was much further along than he was as a rookie, even though that first half of the season was marred by injury. And, of course, he wasn't getting as many snaps. He seemed to find his groove, and I think he's looking for a better season in year 3.
Yeah, and I think him and Scadaboo are a good combination. I think they complement each other well. They can both do everything. They can both run, both catch, both pass protect, so they're interchangeable, but they play with different styles, which I think is good. We have a couple open lines, 201-939-4513 if you want to get in, folks. Good comment off of Twitter here, of YouTube, pardon me, at JCNY718. Nagy's offense is good for Dart because it gives him quick to find reads so he can play fast and aggressive instead of holding on to the ball. I think his RPO's movement versus to take advantage or will take advantage of Dart's mobility. I do think, and I guess we probably should have brought this up at the start, the offense that Nagy has run, I think, does match Dart's prior experience in terms of what he does.
I would agree with that.
Shotguns, RPOs. We've seen Nagy use a mobile quarterback before. He knows how to do that. I agree. The question is, do you want to push Dart into other things? But I do think what Nagy has shown he's done with his offenses and the general schematics of it does match what Dart is comfortable with. I do think that is true.
And I do think that the one thing we've seen in Kansas City, obviously they give a lot of freedom to Mahomes to be able to create and to get out of trouble and improvise and do that kind of stuff. They never put the shackles on him or put the handcuffs on him in terms of having to break off plays. I think we know that Jackson Dart's not really afraid to do that here either. So I don't think they're going to take personality out of Jackson Dart by hiring a Matt Nagy, if that's what they do.
No, I agree with that. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Scott, New Mexico. He's up next. Scott, what's going on, pal?
Hi, guys. How are you doing today?
Hi.
Couple of questions. Besides the teams in the division, the Giants this year are going to be playing the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Lions, and the Texans. All pretty good teams.
Yeah, the NFC West and the AFC South. Those are the two divisions they're playing.
Right. And my question really relates to two things. Winning the division, the NFC East. As you look around the landscape, all the other three teams have makings of great players on them. And I wanted to get an honest assessment from you. Do you look at the Giants this year as a potential playoff team, or can they go further? And my other question, again, that I'm interested in, with John Harbaugh, does he look at Jackson Dart as the, I hate to use it this way, but the second coming of Lamar Jackson, and will try to use the offensive talents that he has as he did in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson? Because I'm interested in whether the Giants can hold their own in the division, because I think that's where it starts. If you can win the division, obviously you're in the playoffs. So those two questions. And also, as far as the hires, I think they're all very good, but the proof will be in the pudding, because we had we thought Shane Bowen was going to be great, and he turned out not to do what he was supposed to do. So I sort of have a little bit of reservation, but I think the unit that they put together as far as coaching staff is good. But I'm interested in whether the Giants, as you see it right now, and I know it's early, whether you portend them to be somewhere where they have the possibility of winning the division as they compare to the other teams in the division. And I'll take the answers off the air, guys. Thanks again.
All right, Scott, thanks. When it comes to Wilson, I'll take that point first. And I'll save the NFC East point for last, but I think that's a larger discussion we can have, Paul. As for the Denard Wilson stuff, relating it back to Bowen, I think what we learned when Bowen got here is that maybe Mike Vrabel had a lot to do with that defense in Tennessee. We go back to the previous conversation with, the Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan thing, and how do you parse head coach to defensive coordinator?
Great example.
just to throw it out there. For example, like the Patriots, whose defense is great. They're onto their second DC because their original one, Terrell, I forget the name of it. He has prostate cancer, and he had to step away. Pearson
now cancer-free, by the way.
Oh, is he cancer-free? Good for him.
Oh, excellent.
What's his last name? Pearson, Terrell. It's Terrell something. And Zach Kerr has taken over from him as the defensive coordinator. So he's done a good job, but I think Vrabel probably. Well, I'm sorry. Terrell Williams.
Williams.
So I think my guess is that Vrabel has a lot to do with that. In terms of what's going on in New England?
The evidence is pretty clear that he had a lot to do with the Tennessee defense and the New England defense because we're seeing similar results.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. All right.
Styles also.
But that was not the case. Leonard Wilson did not. He had an offensive head coach in Tennessee, so that defense was his. He basically did whatever he wanted on that side of the ball.
He just didn't have a lot of players.
Correct, which is obviously a problem. Like if you look at the edge rushers that the Titans had on those teams, there just weren't a lot of edge rushers. The secondary wasn't great. You had obviously Jeffrey Simmons inside, who was really good. They had another good defensive tackle there. So that's just something to keep in mind when you look at that. In terms of Jackson Dart as Lamar Jackson, I would not make that comparison.
Not at all.
Lamar Jackson, maybe not anymore, but 3 or 4 years ago, might have been the best athlete in the National Football League at any position.
Could have been.
Like that's how ridiculous he was in terms of how he moved. Jackson Dart's mobile. He ain't that. So I don't think saying he's Lamar Jackson is correct. Now, if you meant, is Harbaugh going to try to build an offense with whomever the OC ends up being Matt Nagy, around Dart's strengths, the way he built an offense around Lamar Jackson's strengths? I think the answer to that, Paul, is probably yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's the case, but I don't expect Jackson Dart to come anywhere near 1,000 yards rushing in a season.
No.
Okay, that's where I'm drawing the line. You know what I mean? Yeah, there'll be some of that stuff in there. There'll be some of the RPOs, and they're certainly going to want to use some of Dart's ability to escape. I'm sure of that.
Some read options,
sure,
read stuff.
Absolutely.
Like that.
But to think that, going into the season, we're going to count on this quarterback to run for 1,000, which I think Lamar Jackson's done twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That's not going to happen. Harbaugh's not going to do that. I would be shocked if he did that.
Okay.
I'd also be shocked if Jackson Dart lasted 17 games if they tried to do that.
Yeah, one thing Lamar Jackson was really good at was not avoiding contact. Like that guy never took a big hit.
No.
Ever. Because he was so good at getting to the ground, and frankly, he was just faster than everyone else.
Yes.
So he would outrun all the defenders, and they wouldn't be able to catch him to tackle him because he was, again, maybe the best athlete in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Just something to keep in mind. Now, in terms of the NFC East question, I'm going to do a fun podcast later in the week. I already have the interview set up with Doug Kide, who covers the, I think, Boston Herald. I got to double check that. And we're going to do a how the Patriots went from worst to first podcast.
Oh, that'll be fun.
They're just trying to give an idea. I thought, it's the Super Bowl. We'll do a little Super Bowl flavor, but relate it back to the Giants because the two situations are very similar, right? You have a team with a second-year quarterback that was both first-rounders. Drake May obviously drafted a little bit higher. Their stats their first year were somewhat similar. You bring in a head coach in year one that has a history of winning in the National Football League. I think Harbaugh's done at a higher level than Vrabel, but I think the comparison is well enough. Both CEO head coaches, neither guy calls plays for their teams, which I think is significant. And frankly, both teams the previous year were not very good. And the Patriots had a couple bad years. The Giants have had a couple bad years. More than that, unfortunately. So I thought the comparison is apt. So what I would say is this, Paul. I would never rule out winning the division just because no one in their right mind thought the Patriots were going to win the division this year and go as far as they did. So I wouldn't rule it out. Now, do I think that's a likely deal? No. Every year we seem to get a worst to first story in the National Football League. It's not uncommon. We seem to get one of those every year.
Especially the last few years.
Could that be the Giants? Sure. Maybe it could be. But the division is still very strong, all right? The Eagles have a very good football team. We have to figure out what their offense is going to look like next year in terms of how they decide to structure that with Jalen Hurts, the A.J. Brown saga that I'm sure is going to take place in the offseason. They're very good. The Cowboys' offense is phenomenal. We'll see how their defense comes along with a new defensive coordinator. We don't know what that's going to look like.
Right.
And then the Commanders. Remember, Jalen Downs wasn't healthy this year. He was out a lot of the year.
Nope.
So I imagine they'll be better next year than they were this year. I think there's still a lot of questions on defense for that team. They have a new defensive coordinator as well. They have a new offensive coordinator as well in DC. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. I think this is going to be a boring refrain, Paul, that both of us are going to say a lot this offseason, but if we get to December and the Giants are in the hunt graphic in terms of the playoffs, whether in a wild card spot or in the hunt or maybe even leading the division, I think all of us would be happy with that. Never rule out more. Always aim for more. Try to get as much as you can. But I think that would be a good goal to have for 2026.
I totally agree with everything you just said. I will add two more pieces to this by saying, number one, John Harbaugh has not been bashful or shy about saying competing for the playoffs this year. However, he never said anything about the division or the conference or a Super Bowl. He did mention the word playoffs, which, quite frankly, is the first step that you have to make when you're a team that's trying to achieve the 500 mark or better. So that's not too lofty of a thing to say, but he wasn't going any further than that. And quite frankly, I don't think going further than that is very realistic. I think when you are what the Giants have been, you have to worry about taking that first step to getting back to being a winning team again.
And if you take a bigger step, great.
Yeah, but you can't expect it.
Correct.
So that would be my first comment to you, Scott. And my second comment would be regarding the quality of the roster compared to the division itself. The Giants still have work to do. Who's kidding who? We see this 90-man roster today. John, you and I both know there are going to be a lot of changes here with free agency, the draft, and training camp. We have no idea what this 53 is going to look like. We really don't. I'm sorry, but that's not a cop-out.
And again,
we just don't.
And one part of that Patriots formula last year, they were extremely aggressive.
They were.
In free agency.
I know the Giants don't have a ton of money. They're in the middle of the pack.
They're not going to be able to spend like the Patriots did last year.
No,
Milton
they won't.
Williams, Carlton Davis,
big-time players.
Spillane, the linebacker.
Big-time players.
Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver.
Diggs. Well, they got him cheap because of the injury and stuff.
Not that. He was still over, what was he, a 3-year, $50 million contract?
Did he get that much?
I think he was somewhere in that area. Wow. Let me look up what the Stephon Diggs contract was.
Put it this way.
There weren't a ton of guarantees.
Didn't get 20.
No, there weren't a ton of guarantees in it because of the injury deal. Oh, I'm sorry. I undershot him, Paul. 3 years, $63 million.
Did he really?
$22 million in guarantees.
I'm sorry. I did not think he got that much. I thought it was more like 16, 17. Wow. Point is, Giants don't have that kind of money. Okay? They don't.
Not to that level.
No, they don't.
Right.
So, there are questions on this team. There are thin spots and there are potential holes. And we don't even know about some of the guys who may leave. So my final answer to you in terms of that second part, Scott, is really simple. Let's wait until the 53 is constructed in August before we talk about how they truly stack up in the division. But there's work to do. There's work to be done. And there may even be more work to be done if certain guys leave, like Illuminor, like Van Roten, like Flott. I mean, we're hoping that the Giants have answers. What if Micah McFadden, can't come back? What if Malik Neighbors' injury turns out to be, he's going to have to miss training camp. We're not sure when he's going to get back on the field. There are too many unknowns here for anybody today to say where the Giants can really stack up in the division. I'm sorry, I just don't see it.
And by the way, I missed Harold Landry III, Morgan Moses.
Oh, yeah.
Two guys that start for them.
Matt Collins.
Matt Collins is another one. Pearson. By the way, Matt Collins has played more snaps at wide receiver than any other Patriot this year?
That's amazing to me.
Kyrus
I saw that
Tonga,
number the other day.
who ended a valuable defensive tackle, also plays some fullback for them. Austin Hooper, the tight end. Caleb Von Chason.
What was their total layout in money?
No, they had. I think they spent almost $140 million in guarantees last year. It was a crazy number.
They almost hit on every single one.
And that's the thing. By the way, Garrett Bradbury, starting center.
Yes.
Look at all that money that they spent this offseason. Let me see if I can get a quick Google search on that. But look.
Yeah, see if you can find that total.
I will try to find that number for you.
That's a ridiculous amount of talent that they were able to bring in.
Right. So, and again, that's going to be my part of my conversation with Doug when I have him on Thursday. That should post on Friday morning, where not only did you get the new head coach, you had the quarterback take a big jump where he's now going to be top 3 in MVP voting.
Yeah.
You hit on all these free agent signings, and they ended up doing pretty good in the draft. Like, their left tackle struggled a little bit this year, but he's been a starter for them. But he's been a starter for them all year.
Yeah.
So you put all that together. It's a tough ask. Is it possible? Sure. But it's a tough ask to try to go from worst to first in year one of a coach. When again, that coach is also going to go through the roster and to your point, Paul. You're gonna find stuff out about players, and you're gonna turn stuff over in that first year. You have to.
Now, I will add one other item, though. The foundation players that the Giants have, the Abdul Carters, the Brian Burnses, the Darts, the Scadaboos and the Tracys and the Theo Johnsons and those kinds of guys. Bobby Okereke, who may or may not be a salary issue. We'll have to see about that. The Giants do have Dexter Lawrence. How could I leave him out? They've got a bunch of solid foundational players that I don't think John Harbaugh is going to turn over, who were better than the Patriots' foundational players of 2 years ago.
I agree with that 100%. The Giants have more here than the Patriots had. I think that is true. I mean, Christian Barmore, I think, is comparable to Dexter Lawrence. Christian Barmore is an excellent, excellent player. But they don't have a Brian Burns. They don't have an Abdul Carter. No. They don't have Malik Neighbors. Like, those players were not in the building, for the Patriots. So, according to ESPN, $209 million of guarantees. Again, that's over the course of the contract.
Whoa!
But that's how aggressive they were in free agency. $209 million in total guarantees spent in 2025.
Which goes back to the old mantra, folks. No matter who the coach is, you better have players.
Correct. And well, now you got to see, too. Look, we've seen big free agent expenditures that works the first year, then how does it work after that?
Right.
So we'll have to track to see how the Patriots do moving forward here. All right, Charlie in Portland, Maine. Charlie, I've been Charlie-free for like 10 days. It's been glorious. That ends today. How are you, buddy?
Hi, good. Hey, Paul.
What's up?
Hey, did you see the thing I sent you guys? I DM'd you guys?
No, absolutely not.
It's all about
We're busy doing a show, Charlie. Come on.
I know. I'm just saying. I just sent you.
We'll take a look. We'll take a look.
I'm going to read you a little bit about it. Not long, but just a little bit. His running. He does a lot of RPOs.
Yep.
Which I don't think will be good for Dart. A lot of his experience comes from the Arena League where he played. He uses a lot of instead of the running game, he uses jet sweeps. He uses bubble screens.
Yep.
He moves out his wide receivers, which I don't like because we need a running game. We need to be able to run the ball when we need to run it with 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left. We need to have a good running game.
Yeah, Charlie, I agree with that. And that's why I referenced, by the way, how much John Harbaugh is going to have an impact on this. Because if you know anything about John Harbaugh's time with the Ravens, they ran the football. And you're right. The Chiefs, in the last 3-4 years, they have not run the ball successfully very often. It's something that's really hurt in the last couple of years. There's been too much on Mahomes, and they haven't been able to complement him well enough. So I agree. They will have to figure out how to run the ball better. I agree with that. I think that is fair.
That's what he did, a couple of years ago, and, he might change it up now. Hopefully,
yeah, sure. That's possible.
Just remember this. Harbaugh has always favored 2 tight end systems. Okay? He's always favored having a fullback. Okay? And he's always favored to be able to, when necessary, to grind the ball out.
And play under center.
Yes.
And he's never had a top wide receiver that, like Neighbors is not going to get 100 throws. He divides it up between, different people, different wide receivers, tight ends. He doesn't go with that one guy, and he's had that one guy.
Now, in fairness, they have tried to get that one guy. They've spent a bunch of high picks on wide receivers. It just didn't work very well. It's one of the few things the Ravens have done poorly over the past 10 or 15 years is finding that, number one wide receiver. Though remember, Zay Flowers this year, Charlie, 86 catches, 1,200 yards. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but Nagy had Tyree Hill.
Yep.
But Kelsey kind of led the team in multi-categories. He also had Allen Robinson. He also had Tank, and they divided up the throws. I'm just saying they're not going to rely on one guy.
No, I agree with that.
They're not going to rely on Neighbors. That's all I'm saying, especially with an ACL coming off an ACL.
The only thing
spreads the ball around.
Charlie, just remember one thing, though, too. Because of, we talked about the Andy Reid relationship, it's pretty clear to me that if he is the hire, that Harbaugh will have done his appropriate research and will have a very strong understanding between him and Nagy of what they want to do. And we know that there are some things that both of these guys have that did not show up on the other guy's scheme or resume. We know that.
And Nagy will use multiple tight ends, to your point.
Yes, he will. He has done that before.
The Chiefs are right in the middle of the league in terms of multiple tight end usage.
So I have to believe, you wouldn't bring a guy in who has such you wouldn't hire an orange if you're an apple and not know that there's a place where you could meet on some of these things.
Fruit salad.
There you go.
Maybe a pear. Maybe they're going to be a pear.
There you go. Why not?
You get it? Pear?
Yes, I get it. I get it.
Very, very well done on the double entendre there, Charlie. Good job.
Yes. Hey, the other thing about Nagy, somebody said Nagy considers himself an aggressive coach, a doctrine that has drawn criticism for being too cute at times. But look, the internet went nuts about this guy. I mean, the Giant fans were freaked out about this, and I'm like, why? You're supposed to be trusting in hardball. That's what you all guys said. So let him get his guys, and I'm sure this wasn't his first pick. It's probably his third. He wanted Moncton. He probably wanted Webb, and now we got Nagy. So let him do what he's got to do, get the position coaches in, and let's see what happens. But I can't believe they're tearing this all apart, and especially when they're all saying, let's trust hardball. We really wanted him. I'm the voice of reason. That's pretty pathetic.
Holy smokes, Charlie. I'm impressed.
Okay,
Charlie,
guys,
you're
take
funny.
care.
Thank you, bud. No, look, and I think that's how you have to look at it, right? You bring in Harbaugh to bring in his staff and run his system and do his thing. I think you have to trust him. We'll see what the results look like when all is said and done. Paul and I talked about it also at the start of the show. We don't know what Matt Nagy's going to look like when he's not with Andy Reid and he's with John Harbaugh. It might look a little bit different. We don't have the answer to that. One of the number I did not throw out there before, Paul, when we kind of did our little diagnostic, at the top of the show. He was 7th in deep pass rate when he was with the Bears. So he was that's a passes attempted of over 20 yards, percentage of passes attempted over 20 yards. He was 7th in the league. So while Charlie's right, he does do a lot of jet sweeps and bubbles and stuff around the line of scrimmage. And look, the Chiefs do a ton of that too. If you just watch a Chiefs game, you see them run that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
He will throw the ball down the field. So Giant fans should rest assured that they will be trying to make those explosive plays.
I would want to add one thing, though, about
if he does end up being the offensive coordinator.
Right. Now, the first year, and again, this goes into that gray area, we know what control Andy Reid had on the offense in Kansas City. Yep. We understand all of that. At least when Nagy came back in his second stint with the Chiefs under Reid, that was 2023. They won the Super Bowl that year, and Isaiah Pacheco, the former Rutgers star, ran for over 900 yards and 7 touchdowns.
What year was that,
in
you
13
said?
games, 23.
23.
Okay? That was Pacheco's second year in the league. He ran for over 800 yards as a rookie. His second year in the league, Nagy was the OC, and Pacheco, in 13 starts, he played 14 games, over 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think a lot of us get caught up in, we think West Coast offense, pass. But anybody who knows this game, John, we hear this all the time. They always say, don't think that. West Coast offense, they do like to run out of a one back, but they know that you have to be able to run the ball.
Yes, they just have not done it particularly well the last couple of years.
But
yes,
right.
Andy Reid has always been like, look, I need the run to balance my passing game. They'll pass it more than they'll run it. You go back to all of it. If you look at just the run rate, it's not going to be high for these teams. But they do find it very important to balance out that pass game.
And especially when they need to. Again, that's all about efficiency with running the ball. Run it with efficiency. Run it when you need to run it. Run it when you want to balance it. And that doesn't necessarily reflect in the overall number.
Can I throw out one other nugget that just popped in my head a little bit? What kind of wide receivers generally, Paul, have the Chiefs drafted and acquired over the past 4 or 5 years?
Oh, they're usually the Smurfs.
Does this bode well for Wando Robinson's return?
Wow. That's an interesting thought. That's a very interesting thought. I appreciate
it literally
you
just popped in my head.
Well, that's a good pop-up right there. That's a very interesting thought. How important does he become now, given Nagy's resume?
Now, it's usually smaller guys that run like 4.3s.
Yeah.
And Wando's not a 4.3 guy.
No, he's not.
He's like a 4.4s. But I wonder if that is something then that would become more attractive.
Wow.
Given the way Nagy has used receivers with the Chiefs.
Question is, how much attractive?
It's always a question, isn't it?
I'm rubbing my fingers together if you're listening on the archive, because the George Washingtons speak a lot.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be paying him in George Washington's.
No.
I think you have to pick a different founding father.
Yes.
Unless you want to give him like Literally a truck full of money.
Truck full, yes, of U.S. bonds, stocks, and all kinds of other things.
Unmarked bills.
Yes.
201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phone to say what's up to Eddie in California. Eddie, what's going on, pal?
Hello?
Hi, how's it going, y'all?
What's up, guys?
So I'm calling in today. I just wanted to know, take you guys' brain on the possibility of the Giants drafting a backup quarterback, since I know that Jameis is on a 1-year contract, I believe.
Yep. Okay.
So I wanted to know, what are the chances of something like that happening?
I mean, I think you're not looking at anything until day 3. If you want to pick a flyer on a developmental guy around, 5, 6, or 7, fine. That's great. I wouldn't spend a ton of draft capital given all the other needs you have and the fact that Jameis Winston is already here and under contract and they love him here. But yeah, if you want to draft a developmental quarterback with a late round pick, if someone matches, where you're picking, I would not necessarily have a huge issue with that. But I wouldn't make it a priority where, like, I'm heading into the draft, I'm making sure I'm walking out with a backup quarterback. I wouldn't necessarily look at it that way.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the third guy is a veteran who comes in for the minimum at the very end. Wouldn't surprise me.
I wouldn't mind, though, given Nagy's ability to develop young quarterbacks, what happened with Mitch Trubisky notwithstanding in Chicago, given what he did with the Chiefs. If you want, look, I'm never going to be mad about bringing in a developmental quarterback with a late round pick. Because you never know when you get a hit on a flyer. You're just going to get lucky with somebody.
Yeah, that's
so
true
I don't mind throwing darts at the board that way.
Darts, huh?
That was actually not on purpose.
Okay.
In that case, what are the chances that they just re-sign Jameis to a long-term contract as a backup?
I mean, I think they'd love to have Jameis here, Eddie, as a long-term backup. The question is, does Jameis want to sign that contract? Or does he want to play out the contract? You hope this doesn't happen, but if he has a chance to play this year and he plays well, if Dart gets hurt or something like that and he plays really well, does he want to try to find a starting job somewhere? So I think that's more up to Jameis. I think the Giants would love to have Jameis Winston here as a long-term backup. As long as it doesn't cost too much money, I think that'd be fantastic.
I agree with you, John, although he was just on with Kay Adams sometime in the last 2 days, and he said he does hope he gets another chance to start in the league at some point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I think he would want another chance to start.
I think he does, which means I don't think he's going to be too anxious to sign an extension. I think he'll play out this season.
100%. I think if you do re-sign him, it would be a deal. It would be next offseason.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
No, sure. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate the call. Something tells me, knowing Jameis Winston's personality, we're going to see a lot of him at the Super Bowl this year, doing various media things. I think that's fair, right?
Probably. And no, more than likely singing a tune because he loves to sing.
Networks are probably already getting the wallet ready for him whenever he retires.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
He's got a long way to go. I think he's barely 30 years old.
Yeah.
But the people are going to want to hire him as a broadcaster, given his personality. All right, let's wrap things up with Jose down in North Carolina. Jose, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, I appreciate y'all taking my call. I've been trying for the longest, and I thank you so much. I've been a Giant fan for 58 years. And I want to talk about the draft. I know you guys were talking about the draft yesterday, and I really like this kid, the offensive lineman from Miami, and the wide receiver from Georgia Tech, I believe it is. I think it's Ted Hawkins. I don't know what's his last name. I can't think of it. I'm having a mental phrase.
A Georgia receiver? Are you talking about with their first pick at 5?
Well, the first pick at 5, I'm talking about the offensive lineman.
Zachariah Branch would be the highest rated Georgia wide receiver, if that's who you're talking about.
Yeah, he would be my second choice for round 2, but I really like him because he's like 6'3", 200 pounds. He runs a 40 and 4.8. And I like the way how he handles the ball after the run, and he high points the ball, and I like the kid a lot. I have to watch a lot of tape on him.
Okay, so it's not Zachariah Branch. He's the smaller wide receiver. He's 5'10". There were 3 Georgia wide receivers that were at the Shrine game. I'm guessing you either mean Noah Thomas or Colby Young?
Colby Young, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have to use your second-round pick on him. I think he's probably going to be a day 3 pick, to be honest with you, Jose. So you could probably wait on him if you're a big fan.
All right, cool. Well, I hope we can land him. I think he would be a good choice. And our offensive coordinator, our new offensive coordinator, I think, I've been on Facebook, and I've been hearing all the negativity about Nagy. And hey, listen, you never know what's going to happen, and I like the choice, and I can't wait till next season because, like I said, I've been a Giant fan for a long time. I live in a home divided. My wife and my son are Green Bay Packer fans, so you know how that can be. So I'm looking forward to next season, and I bleed blue all the time. G-Men for life. Thanks for taking my call. I'll take it off the air. Thank you.
Thanks, Jose. Good call. Yeah, look, I think we have to see what Nagy looks like. Look, he's never been a play-calling offensive coordinator. We've never seen him in that specific role.
Correct.
We've seen him be a head coach as a play caller, but never as an offensive coordinator play caller. And again, we have to see what Harbaugh wants out of him and what he wants the offense to look like.
Well, like you said before when you were describing the color by number situation, I mean, that to me, it's going to be very intriguing.
Harbaugh gives him the design, and Nagy builds it within the design.
Yeah. I mean, and again, what parts of John Harbaugh's Ravens philosophy and design are going to be new to Nagy? Some of it they'll be okay with. Yeah. They'll be like, okay, yeah, I've done that before. Okay, fine. But how much of it's going to be new? We'll got to see.
All right, and then finally, our final YouTube comment of the show here, also from JCNY718. Which current Giants defenders are best positions to benefit most from Denard Wilson's scheme early on? That's a good question. I would probably just say the defensive lineman because that's where the most talent is for the Giants. You know, the Dexter Lawrences of the world. And by the way, he does run an odd man front. Mm-hmm. His base defense is a 3-4. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have Thibodeau and Burns standing up on the outside. I imagine they'll have Dexter and nose, which will put him right over the center. He's had success at that position before. But then we got to figure out who those other two defensive linemen are going to be, too. Roy Robertson Harris is still under contract. He's probably going to be one of them, but Nacho's a free agent. So who's that other defensive lineman? I think that's a position you can look at in the draft as well, right? I think who's going to be that 5 technique, bigger guy that plays towards the edge. Now, there's a lot of guys that fit that. Like Keldrick Falk could be a guy that could play that spot. He's 6'5", 280. Like that's a guy that I think could fit in as kind of that 4-eye spot on the edge. So, or right inside the edge. So I think those are the guys I would look at. I like the idea of Carter, Thibodeau, Burns as stand-up edge rushers playing really wide.
Right.
In some pass rushing situations. His nickel is basically 2 down defensive tackles and 2 stand-up rushers.
Yeah.
That's what his sub-package looks like.
Yep.
So
I prefer that. You know that. I've always been that way. I don't like those guys down.
I know you.
I would add one other item, though. And
sure,
this
please.
Isn't necessarily specific to the defensive coordinator. It's a must-have for the Giants. They must get production out of Golston. They must get a rise in second-year production out of Alexander.
Alexander for sure.
Those two players.
I just don't know how much Golston's going to play, but yes, I hear what you're saying.
Well, it was a lost season for him last year.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
too many
it just
injuries.
was.
Yep.
It just was. He was brought here with some expectation, and they never got a chance to really see it. I want to see both of those guys contribute significantly, at least whenever they're on the field. I want to see production.
All right,
no matter
Paul.
who the DC is.
So we got you and SciTalk tomorrow. Yeah, I believe. I think we have myself and Lance on Thursday.
And then me and you Friday.
And then me and you on Friday. So that's the rest of the week here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. We'll do our Denard Wilson deep dive a little bit later in the week. Maybe we'll save that for Friday. That might not be a bad day. Because I'm sure people want to talk about the OC stuff the next couple of days. We'll see. There'll be news. We could talk.
Maybe a quarterback coach, too. You never know.
Offensive line coach, maybe as well. Who knows?
You never know.
And we'll obviously talk about the Super Bowl as the week goes along as well, because I do think some of that's interesting in terms of what we're looking at. My early feel is that Pearson, cover yours. I think the Patriots may have some problems in this game. I think the Seahawks are the better team, but we'll see how that plays out over the course of the week. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Coming to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Bernie Health. Keep getting better. We'll see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.